Hello again. Welcome to Fire Friday. On this week's Fire Friday, I want to kind of round up some of the topics that I've been doing on lanterns, and this will be the final video for a little while on lanterns, and then we're going to take a little break and move on to some different stuff. So this week what I want to talk about is the three different types of lanterns, and when I say different types, I mean I guess it would be the different type of burning lanterns, and I'll explain. There's the three types are hot blast, cold blast, and dead flame, and it has to do with the air circulating around and how the flame is fed the oxygen for lighting, and all three of them have different properties of like fuel consumption, which equates to burn time, light intensity, and things of that nature. So let me show you the three lanterns I have, for example, and we'll talk about them real quick and then we'll get one lit. Okay, so the first one will be cold blast, and I'll try not to mess this up. This is an Embry. What is this guy? It is the Embry Air Pilot number 2. This one is the larger version of the little fellow that we had last week with the red globe. This is one of my favorite lanterns. I just like the styling. I like the color of this lantern. But anyhow, that's regardless of what we're talking about here. So, cold blast. What that has to do with, so the burner plate down here on this, I don't know if you can see, the camera's barely picking it up. There's little holes around the edge, the perimeter of the burn plate under there. Okay, so you have some air comes in underneath of there, and as the flame is lit inside that little slit in the middle, heat comes up, and the emissions or whatever, from the flame come up through your chimney here. This is your chimney, and will come out of, there's little gaps around this little hood here. Okay, so as the heat, the soot or emissions or whatever is coming up out, let me hold this back here. So there's also, I guess, some heat radiating coming up. There's little holes around this bell here, or actually I think this is called the bell. So it has to do with heat coming up into this bell and coming down through these tubes. Okay, these tubes are hollow. And the tanks are, actually I think there's like 3 parts to the tank. So you have this outer shell, and then you have the bottom, and then there's another part, there's a little space between here and the top, and then it's all kind of crimped together in this bottom seal here. So that air, or the heat, convects around this bell, through these tubes, back down, through a cavity in here, and actually comes up through, not the burner plate, but inside that cone, and feeds air to the flame. Something about the heat, the way that the heat comes up through and getting convection of air, it does something with the flame. It's supposed to be a more efficient and a brighter flame. That would be the cold blast, and I'll show you explain the difference in the cold blast versus the hot blast. So, okay, so cold blast, it has, you've got oxygen coming in here, and then the main heat of the flame comes up through the chimney here, and any of the emissions can come out of there, and through the convection of heat, it gets an air siphon or circulation going through to the flame of a cooler air. When I say cooler, I don't mean like, ambient air cool, but I mean cooler than, I guess, the initial temperature that's inside where the flame is, versus the hot blast. So let me show you the hot blast. This here is a Dietz high-low, and this is an example of a hot blast. So if you notice, this doesn't have the chimney. So what this guy does is this burner plate, and I don't know the science behind it. Flip this around. This burner plate has a lot more holes. It's almost perforated. So you have a lot more of the ambient air coming up, and then there's just this little gap here where the heat can escape, but you have this tube here is hollow on the inside, and you're getting a lot more hot air is traveling up this tube, down and around through here, and it feeds right back into this collar here. So however the heat convects coming up through, it gets an air circulation going through these tubes, and it's feeding air back into the bottom side of the flame here. This air is much hotter because it's not separated. It's basically coming straight up off the wick, through the globe, and right straight into this tube here, and then you get an escape of some of the emissions. So you've got a circulation of a much hotter air than you would in this guy, because the main heat of the flame is coming up on the inside of this chimney and coming out, but through the convection of heat it gets a circulation going, and I guess the air outside of the chimney here is cooler than, you know, what you would have coming directly into this guy. So you have a cold blast, you have your air tubes, you have like the bell and a chimney, and the circulating air is cooler than the air coming directly out of the globe here. Hot blast, you have your air tubes, and this air is much hotter circulating around because it's coming directly from the globe and from the flame and circulating around. The hot blast, it's a little bit less burn time. The flame, supposedly, I can't tell the difference. You get a little bit brighter flame with the cold blast versus the hot blast here. And the cold blast is just supposed to be a better technology and a better burn and a better flame and everything. But like I say, lighting two lanterns with the same size wick, I can't tell the difference in the light intensity. And then the third kind is dead flame. Okay, with the dead flame, this one here is a Dietz. It's an 8-day. This would be like a construction lantern. So this guy here, there's no air circulation going on with this guy, so they call it a dead flame. So it's the ambient air comes in here, it feeds the flame. The heat just comes up, and the emissions and the heat and everything just come right out the top through these vents up here. That's it. There's no air circulating around. It's strictly burning off of ambient air, and that's why they call it dead flame. Now, I can tell the difference in a dead flame and a cold and hot blast, but I can't tell the difference in the flame and the light emitting from a hot blast to a cold blast. They look almost the same to me, but you can tell the difference. These are much dimmer. This looks like about a 5/8 wick. I believe these guys both here are also 5/8 wicks. So there you go. That'll round it up. That's the 3 different types of flame, I guess, or 3 different types of lanterns: hot blast, cold blast, and dead flame. So let me get this wrapped up. We're going to go ahead and light this guy here, the dead flame, and it already has fuel in it. So let me switch the camera off real quick, and I'll get my matches, and we'll get this guy lit, and we'll get on with Fire Friday. Okay, let me shut the light out. There we go. So that'll kind of wrap up for a little while the lanterns, and next week we'll move on to something else. I appreciate you watching. Happy Fire Friday. Take care.